A civil lawsuit typically operates as a closed circuit. A plaintiff files a claim, a defendant answers it, and the court adjudicates the dispute between those two specific parties. But the rules of court provide a tactical mechanism to breach that perimeter. It is called Rule 19 intervention. This rule allows a non-party to force their way into an active lawsuit. This is an ancillary remedy, meaning it only exists as a supplement to the primary litigation. It is not an absolute right. A third party cannot simply walk into a courtroom and demand to be heard. They must petition the court, relying heavily on judicial discretion. The stakes for the original litigants are exceptionally high. A successful intervention can freeze the distribution of contested property, introduce entirely new claims, and even cause an original party to be held in default by a complete stranger. To understand how this mechanism operates, we must examine the 4 sequential phases of Rule 19. The threshold of eligibility, the strict temporal window, the specific pleadings allowed, and the mandatory responses required. Mastering these 4 phases dictates whether a third party can successfully execute a legal ambush or whether their motion will be thrown out for procedural defects. The process begins with Section 1, which establishes the strict filter for eligibility. A third party must prove they have the proper legal standing to enter the fray. The rules of court outline 4 specific pathways for intervention, easily remembered by the mnemonic LSAD. The first 2 are a legal interest in the matter in litigation or an interest in the success of either party. This interest must be actual and direct. An expectant or contingent hope of a payout does not qualify. The remaining 2 grounds are an interest against both original parties or being situated so as to be adversely affected by a distribution or other disposition of property currently in the court's custody. Satisfying one of these 4 criteria is the necessary first step, but the would-be intervener must also formally file a motion for leave of court. They are asking for permission. Upon receiving this motion, the judge must weigh 2 factors: whether allowing the third party to join will cause undue delay or prejudice to the original litigants, and whether the intervener's rights could be fully protected by filing a separate lawsuit. Jurisprudence dictates one critical exception. If the court determines the intervening third party is an indispensable party, meaning no final determination of the case can be had without them, the judge loses that discretion. In that scenario, allowing the intervention becomes mandatory. Section 1 ensures that the boundaries of a lawsuit are only expanded when a non-party's legal survival is inextricably tied to the active case. Once a party establishes they have the right to intervene, they have to navigate the strict timing rules found in Section 2. A motion to intervene must be filed at any time before the rendition of judgment by the trial court. Because intervention is a supplemental ancillary action, it requires an active, undecided case to attach itself to. It cannot alter or append to a dispute where the trial court has already issued a decision. Timing is tied to a strict mechanical requirement. The motion for leave to intervene cannot be filed empty-handed. The intervener must attach a copy of their actual proposed pleading to the motion, serving it on the original parties. Failing to attach that pleading at the moment of filing renders the motion fatally defective. The court will not evaluate an abstract request to join a case. This creates a common trap in bar examinations. While an original party may have the right to file an appeal after a trial court issues its ruling, a non-party attempting to file a post-judgment intervention will be swiftly denied. Missing this precise window permanently locks the third party out of the existing litigation. Their only remaining option is to initiate a completely separate and likely far more costly civil action. If the motion is filed on time and the court grants leave, Section 3 dictates how the intervener actually enters the fight. The intervener must select the correct pleading based entirely on their tactical objective. There are no hybrid options. The rules demand a specific stance. The first option is a complaint in intervention. This is used when the third party is asserting an affirmative claim against either or all of the original parties. The second option is an answer in intervention. This pleading is utilized solely when the intervener unites with the defending party to resist the plaintiff's claim. The practical heuristic is straightforward. If the intervener seeks to actively recover property, demand money, or enforce a right, they must file a complaint. If they merely want to maintain the status quo, such as helping a defendant stop an eviction, they file an answer. Misidentifying this objective is a fatal error. Filing an answer in intervention when the text of the pleading actually demands affirmative relief will result in the immediate dismissal of the claim. Section 3 removes any ambiguity, forcing the third party to immediately declare their legal allegiance and tactical intent to the court. Once the intervener has properly filed their pleading, Section 4 shifts the burden back to the original litigants. When the court admits a complaint in intervention, it operates with the exact same legal force as an original complaint. It requires a mandatory response. The original parties have exactly 15 calendar days from the notice of the order admitting the intervention to file their answer. This 15-day rule is absolute, unless the presiding judge explicitly fixes a different timeline in their order. Original parties often fall into a cognitive trap, assuming that a late-arriving third party is a secondary issue that can be safely ignored while fighting the main case. Failing to answer the complaint in intervention within those 15 days carries a severe penalty. The intervener can move to have the original parties declared in default regarding the new claims. An intervention forces the original litigants onto the defensive, requiring them to immediately address the intruder under the threat of losing by default. The architecture of Rule 19 provides a precise mechanical pathway for an outsider to become an active litigant. It begins with Section 1, proving a direct legal interest to secure the judicial privilege of joining the case. Section 2 demands execution before a trial court judgment is rendered, while Section 3 requires the selection of the precise pleading to match the tactical objective. Finally, Section 4 imposes a strict 15-day deadline on the original parties, creating the real possibility that they could lose a portion of their case by default to someone who wasn't even named in the original complaint. In civil procedure, the litigation perimeter is never truly secure. Knowing exactly how to legally intrude into a case, or how to procedurally block that intruder, is the hallmark of a master litigator.